So today I wanted to share with you a little bit of my story and a little bit of my perspective on why it's so hard to sometimes let ourselves be seen. This is something that I struggled with most of my life. I had a lot of fear around showing who I really was. My smart self or my sassy self, excuse me, or my nerdy self, geeky self. Somewhere along the way, I had received messages that this wasn't okay, or I wouldn't be accepted if I was too silly or too goofy, or if I gave all the answers in math class. So I began to pull those parts of myself back. And when this happens in the moment, we don't usually realize that it's happening. We just adapt in that moment and carry on with our life. But the problem becomes is like a compound effect. There were also lots of other cues and messages I picked up along the way, and somehow I began to internalize them with this thought of, I'm not good enough, or if I show up as I truly am, then I'll be judged as less than or dumb or not fit in. I won't be labeled, or I won't be seen as normal. And for me, that was a really big deal. And interestingly, like, my first name is Mitzi, which is an unusual name. And that was part of my process of, or part of this whole thing that I went into around, I wanted to be normal. I wanted to be perceived as normal. I wanted to fit in. And so having to deal with that name, I actually love the name now, but growing up, it was a challenge. It was part of this whole, I was another piece that I had taken in that said, I wasn't enough, or I can't be all of who I am because I had a fear of not fitting in. So as we go through our lives with these conditionings that are simmering beneath the surface, if we go long enough with them, they turn into beliefs. And these beliefs are powerful. We oftentimes are carrying a belief that we're not even aware that we're carrying the belief, or it's a belief that we adopted from someone else that really doesn't resonate with us, but we don't know any different, or we don't take the time to stop and ask, hey, is this belief true for me now? For example, if you have a parent who is scared of dogs, and you hear that refrain all the time that dogs are scary and you can't be around dogs and be careful when you're around dogs, then you might adopt a belief that dogs are scary without even stopping to consider your own experience with dogs. So this idea of letting ourselves be seen sort of gets baked into our whole inner essence. And in my journey, which began almost 30 years ago, my healing journey, it coincided with my spiritual awakening, and that sort of cracked everything open for me. And I began down this path of healing myself. I was so curious. I had so many questions, and I was insatiable. I read, when this moment happened, which was 1998, in the next 2 years, I read almost 300 books and everything I could get my hands on. I wanted to know all of these things that I perceived were wrong with me. And I wanted to know how they got there, why they got there, and how to correct them. So I began this journey of seeing all kinds of practitioners, reading the books, like I mentioned, taking all kinds of courses, getting all kinds of certifications. And in this process, I tried all modalities, every single modality that was available. I tried it, from normal or accepted modalities to alternative and everything in between. Some of them were weird. Some of them felt like they were maybe concepts and not fully developed. Some of them were great, and I took those in, applied them, and continued on. So in this process, as I began to heal my own fear around being seen, I began to change. I began, as I applied these different things, I would feel the shift and it would give me a little courage, or I would experience something, be able to see something in a different way, and it would spur me on. Or I would feel an emotion that I hadn't been able to feel, didn't even know it was buried inside, related to shame or anger, or even the fear around it. And sitting with the fear and letting it tell me what it needed to tell me. I couldn't do that in the beginning. This was a process that evolved over time. But this awakening in me eventually led me to my purpose of helping others. But I first had to help myself. So as I continued down this pathway, I began to understand and see all of the wounds that we carry, all of the wounds that tell us that we have to stay in the background, or that it feels safer to stay in the background, or it's not okay to speak up and share our voice, share our opinions. In my journey, as I began unwinding all of this, someone would ask me what I wanted. Like, what did I want to do? What did I desire? And I couldn't tell them. I had been so steeped in fear of change, fear of showing myself, fear of making a mistake, fear of getting it wrong, fear of rocking the boat. So this idea of, well, what did I want to do? It was foreign to me. I could not even open myself up enough, because I had been so shut down with the fear, to even consider that. It's totally different for me now, but that's because of my process that I underwent in healing my own wounds. So what I've discovered is, as I was saying before, though, there's different wounds that we all carry. They come from different sources. They can be conditioning, they can be trauma, they can be belief systems, but they're things that we carry internally that then inform the way we show up in the world. If I have a fear of showing all of myself, right, because I'm afraid I'm going to be judged for it, then I'm not going to present my whole self when I'm in a new social situation. I'm going to stay back and be quiet and observe. If I have a fear of speaking up, sharing my opinion, then when I'm with my friends and we're asking, hey, where do you want to go? Let's go see a movie. Let's go out to dinner. I may not offer my opinion, and somebody else will say, let's go see this movie. And I don't really want to see that movie, but my fear would keep me from speaking up, because I would be afraid I'd be ostracized. I'd be afraid I'd be laughed at, all of those things. So these things show up in our relationships. They keep us from being our whole self. They show up in our workplace. We acquiesce to someone else's demands without offering our input. We do things the way that they want without offering a more efficient way to do it, or a more creative way to do it. But most of all, they show up with ourselves, in the way that we speak to ourselves, in the way that we love ourselves, in the way that we accept ourselves. When we're carrying all of these woundings that tell us that we're not enough, or that it's not safe to be who we are, or it's not safe to show all of ourselves, internalizing that dims our light. And it's been my experience through my lifetime and everything that I have gone through, that we are way more than we've ever been led to believe, than we've ever allowed ourselves to believe. We are capable of so much more. We have so much more to give. We have so much more light to shine than we've ever thought possible. We are bigger than we ever thought possible. We have so many abilities, so many more intuitive abilities, magic, healing abilities than we've ever thought possible. But we can't reach all of those when we are buried under all of these wounds, as I call them, all of the conditioning and the trauma and the belief systems that we carry that aren't ours, that aren't actually aligned with us. So in my process of discovering all these wounds, I also discovered how they're created and also how to heal them. So my message to you today is that if you have fear around letting all of yourself be seen, I want you to know that it is possible to heal that fear. When you understand where it comes from, you can heal it. Most often, these come from parts of ourselves that experienced something that made them believe that it's not safe to be seen, whether it was trauma. And trauma is very subjective, meaning what you experience and handle with ease might be something that I am unable to handle with ease. And that creates a trauma response for me. It might be little, but it does not negate the fact that it created a trauma response. The trauma happens when we lack the capacity in that moment to handle it. So lots of times when we're young and children and experience things and we don't have the capacity to fully process them as we would as an adult, it causes a trauma response. It makes us keep our head down. It makes us stay in the background and shy away from showing up because we had an experience where we got laughed at, ridiculed, or bullied on the playground at school, for example. So when we understand that these are our parts of us that are carrying this belief, carrying this conditioning, and carrying this trauma, then we have a place to start. And in the work I do, we work with the parts that are holding all of these things. We create a safe space for them to tell their stories, for them to be seen, and for them to be heard. And in every single case, once they are heard, once they have expressed their needs, expressed their stories, their feelings, in every single case, they heal. They're willing to lay down, let go of these thoughts that they were carrying, this belief they had, the emotions they were carrying around all of it, no matter what it is, they're willing to let go of it. And that's when healing happens. When that part of you who is carrying the fear around showing up, when you can reach that part and let her express to you what she felt from her perspective, not from your perspective as an adult, from her 8-year-old self, from her 12-year-old self, from her 5-year-old self, from her 16-year-old self, whatever they are. When you let them speak their experience, this sort of magic happens. This understanding filters through. This acceptance filters through. And when they feel that they're being heard and being seen, most often they're also willing to acknowledge that they're tired of carrying this. They're ready to let it go and set it down. And that's how the healing happens. So this is something that I've experienced myself lots and lots of times. And the magic is real. This, for me, and all of the modalities that I discovered, and they all have their place. I'm not saying that that's not the case, because all of those things that I experienced, good and bad, got me to where I was willing to and ready and able to work with my parts. So my message to you is, if you're carrying the fear around letting yourself be seen, showing all of yourself, embracing all of yourself, it can be healed. And one way to do that is to get with your parts. Get with someone who can help you navigate your parts, work with them, and help them heal. And then you heal. You shift, the fear subsides. And let me be clear, there's often many layers to this. And you will heal one part, and then that creates a space. Oh, here's another one. Here's another thread that comes up, and this was tied to a different experience. That's just the nature of the game. We are complex individuals, and we didn't get like this overnight. So it takes a little bit of unwinding, but I want you to know that it is possible to heal. It is possible to shed the doubts that you have about showing yourself, to shed the fear you have about showing up as you are in all your glory and all your quirkiness and all your goofiness and your sassiness and silliness and smartness and centered, sensitive self and heart-centered space and intellectual space. All of that is possible if you're willing to look at what's underneath it, what's holding the fear in place, and to heal it.